What is it about Israel that has always drawn the Jewish people towards the land, towards the idea of a haven in the east, a homeland for the wandering Jew? When I am gathered to my people, says Jacob, bury me with my ancestors in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah facing Mamre, in the land of Canaan. It is here where Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, and Jacob's wife Leah are buried. And Joseph too charges his family to bring up his bones from Egypt, an instruction with which Moses will comply as he leaves Egypt with the Israelites 430 years later. For Jacob, despite 20 years outside Canaan, the territory is his home. It is where his parents had lived, where he had been born, and where he had returned to become reconciled with his brother Esau. It is, too, where he had encountered his God at Bethel on the first night after leaving home, dreaming of the staircase to heaven, and again as he crossed the river Jabbok on his return and wrestled with a mysterious man in the middle of the night. And as for Joseph, Canaan was his home for the first 17 years of his life, but Egypt became the place he achieved fame and honor, taking an Egyptian name, marrying an Egyptian wife, and raising 2 sons who must have been thoroughly acculturated into Egyptian life. Whether he instructs his family to carry his bones up from Egypt because he wishes to be buried alongside his father, or whether it is because of that early attachment and the knowledge that the land was promised for his people, is unclear. And what of our own attachment to the state of Israel? It's not easy to address the deeply worrying developments that have taken place in the political arena since the Israeli election on the 1st of November. Israel's 37th government is led for the 6th time by Benjamin Netanyahu, the current cabinet appointed just over a week ago on the 29th of December. The coalition, formed of 6 parties, is the most right-wing and most religious government in Israel's political history. Already, this new hardline government is planning to give politicians sweeping powers over the country's judiciary, allowing a simple majority in the Knesset to override high court decisions, striking down laws, and giving the government and its allies control over the appointment of judges. Opposition representatives see this as an assault on Israel's democracy, giving the new government untrammeled powers over the highest court of appeal, which has the power to hear petitions against government authorities. This would leave Israel without the checks and balances that ensure that the government is subject to the same law as the country's citizens. As Yair Lapid, opposition leader and former prime minister, said, they're threatening to destroy the entire constitutional structure of the State of Israel. According to a report in the Jewish Chronicle, Noam, a far-right party now in the coalition, has placed leading Jewish charities on a blacklist, accusing them of secretly planning to infect Israel's education system with liberal values. The blacklist was drawn up in 2019 and includes organizations such as Yad HaNadiv, the charity founded by Lord Jacob Rothschild, and the New Israel Fund, which supports charities and organizations in Israel that work for civil and human rights, social and economic justice, religious freedom, and democracy. Under threat is the law of return, whereby Jews with one Jewish grandparent are guaranteed citizenship of Israel. The right-wing parties claim wrongly that immigration into the country alters the Jewish identity of Israel. But equally worrying is the threat to democracy, to the liberal values enshrined in Israel's Declaration of Independence, that the state of Israel, I quote, will be based on the principles of liberty, justice, and peace, as conceived by the prophets of Israel, that it will uphold the full social and political equality of all its citizens without distinction of religion, race, or sex, will guarantee freedom of religion, conscience, education, and culture, and will safeguard the holy places of all religions. One by one, each of these principles is under threat of being eroded or eradicated. A shocking video this week revealed two young men clothed in the religious garb of ultra-Orthodoxy, smashing tombstones in a Christian cemetery. The new Minister for National Security is Itamar Ben-Gvir, a settler from the occupied territories. He has faced multiple charges of hate speech against Arabs and was known to have a portrait in his living room of Baruch Goldstein, who massacred 29 Palestinian Muslim worshippers and wounded 125 others in the very place where the Torah records that our patriarchs and matriarchs are buried in Hebron in 1994. Just this week, he visited the Temple Mount, the location of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, an act that is seen to be highly contentious and provocative. Progressive Jews throughout the world, LGBT+ Jews, women, Jews of Jewish heritage, immigrants, including Ukrainians, and refugees from Africa, Palestinian Arab Israelis, Palestinians in the occupied territories, organizations and charities that work for coexistence and peace, all will suffer from this right-wing, hardline government, whose scruples, if one can call them such, seem based on injustice, partiality, racism, homophobia, unconscionable corruption, and a complete inversion of those words from Israel's Declaration of Independence. One wonders, how is it possible for one person to interpret the teachings of Judaism in one way and another person to understand them in a way that is completely different? What is there not to understand about the phrase, "Pray for the peace of Jerusalem, let there be peace within your walls, safety within your borders"? Surely there is only one way to interpret the phrase which we read just 2 weeks ago at Hanukkah, "Lo v'chayil v'lo b'choach," not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, says the Eternal One. Why are some people driven by hatred, prejudice, and resentment, and others by love, justice, and compassion? Why do some devote their lives to conflict resolution, reaching out to understand the identity and feelings of the other, and others to inciting racism, hatred, and violence? And can there ever be dialogue and reconciliation between these opposing sides? With a new government in place, the current situation seems intractable and irreversible. Yet, this is the 5th Knesset election in nearly 4 years, with a prime minister who is under criminal investigation for corruption. And now it seems as though racists have claimed Judaism, with their inverted interpretations of its spiritual legacy. But as Rabbi Arthur Green wrote recently, this is not the time to retreat. It is not the time to cut ourselves off from those in the state of Israel who are working for peace and reconciliation, who want to see a Palestinian state, who wish to see Israel's democratic values upheld with justice and impartiality. We are engaged today in a great struggle for the soul of Judaism, writes Rabbi Green. Those who read it in an exclusivist and xenophobic way have taken center stage. But this is about a legacy that we all share, one in which we take great pride. Do we really want to give it away to the racists among us? It is difficult to retain optimism about the future of Israel and any kind of peace between Israel and Palestine. And yet, even among the pessimists, there is a solid and sober commitment to enlightened, humanistic, and spiritual values, working towards an end to the occupation, committing to the creation of a two-state solution in the 1967 borders, teaching tolerance and understanding, seeking freedom and peace between neighbors, and reconciliation between brothers. And I end with this poem about two brothers, Ishmael and Isaac, by the poet Shin Shalom. Ishmael, my brother, how long shall we fight each other? My brother from times bygone, my brother, Hagar's son, my brother, the wandering one. One angel was sent to us both. One angel watched over our growth. Thee in the wilderness, death threatening through thirst. I, a sacrifice on the altar, Sarah's first. Ishmael, my brother, it was the angel who tied thee to me. Remember the well of the living God who sees me. Let bonds of friendship bring me to thee. Time is running out. Put hatred to sleep. Shoulder to shoulder, let's water our sheep.